All right, today is Tuesday, June 7th, 2022, and we move into our next section. This is a budget workshop of the San Benito CISD Board of Trustees. The time is 9:08. And we can go right into, there's no public comment, so we go right into item 2.1, discussion regarding budget for the 22-23 school year.
So we have Mrs. Bettis tonight that's going to present us with some information regarding our budget for the 22-23 school year.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let me make sure this works. All right. Short and sweet. Got it. 3 minutes? Really, I don't have a lot of information at this point. We've tied up our revenues and our expenditures together. I went over some of my processes with Ms. Cervillon as far as balancing at the fund level, at the program intent, function, et cetera, just to make sure that everything is lined up. I have a couple of more tweaks to do, but the overall amount of the budget does not change. Whatever revenues we can get is what our expenses are going to be. So we've determined our revenues, and our expenses will meet those revenue amounts. The ad, I'll go over the ad in a little bit. Let me go over the budget by fund. So this is a preview of what we're going to see at the public hearing. The Child Nutrition Fund, which is Fund 101, the revenues are going to be, the revenues and expenditures will be $9,466,190. For local funds, we have 161, which is athletics, 162 is band, 163 is choir, and 199, of course, is local. Those will be $98,055,428. Our debt services, our 598 is our LED project, our lease project, and 599 is our debt service account. That's the one we pay all of our bonds out of. It's going to be $8,249,586. The total, I didn't put the total on there, but the total of all of our revenues is $117,291,837. So we're going to look at the object groups. So I didn't put the numbers on there just because I didn't want it to be confusing. 6100s would have been payroll. So I just put payroll, contracted services, supplies, travel, meals, and miscellaneous, bond and lease payments, and our capital outlay, which is anything that is a purchase over $5,000. Those are the 6,600 accounts. And you'll see this very, very, very fine print at the very end of this. This is just to help guide you whenever you're looking at the budget. It has what our funds are, functions, object groups, and all that other good stuff. So when we look at all of the funds, the only thing I did not include in here was transfer in and out, and I'll explain those in a bit. Our payroll overall is going to be 73.09%. Overall, that is a very good number. Contracted services will be 7.39% of the budget. Supplies will be 8.07%. The 6400s, 24 meals, travel, miscellaneous will be 2.45%. Our bond and lease payments will be 7.87%. Capital outlay will be 1.12%. So you're going to see an increase and a difference actually under bond and lease. That one says 9.176, and back here I did say that it was going to be 8.2. There is going to be a difference in there because there is a new GASB 87 standard that the accounting boards has asked that we include as part of our final audit. And so I'd like to be able to implement that. You'll see a budget amendment at the last board meeting, and then I'm implementing that for our future budgets. And what that says is that any capital leases, any copier leases, we have a postage lease, we have the LED lease projects, those are going to be out of a function 71 with the 65 blah, 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 6512, I think. So that is gonna show, that's gonna be the reason for the increase. This is for all funds. The capital outlay will include the one-time projects that we discussed, and that's for 1.12%. This is for all funds again. Under local funds, Our payroll account will be at 84.03%. That will be a little bit on the higher end, but the ratio is also based off of the lowered revenues that we have. So it's just a little bit of a balancing game. Contracted services are gonna be at 8.77%, supplies at 3.57%, travel, meals, miscellaneous at 2.53%, bond and leases in local will be 0.33%, and capital outlay, those are the lease payments, that's gonna be 0.76%. Any questions so far about this part right here? No? Okay, the next one is going to be budget by function. This is gonna be a lot for me to go one by one, so I'll let you look at these are the transfers out, that's the top part, and transfer out means 161, 162, and 163, those are our, again, band, athletics, band, and choir. We pay for those out of our 199 account. So whatever revenues they can't make, we will supplement it with our 199 account. So you'll see those coming in and then going out of 199. So those are the increases and mostly decreases, actually. I can tell you out of curriculum and instruction, there's a major decrease because we have moved our instructional coaches out of 199 and into ESSER. Extracurricular, we did decrease some of the extra payments that we have as far as like, I have an amount set aside for state and extended travel. Historically, we haven't used that much, so I've reduced that account and allocated it where we need it. Data processing services, last year we put technology out of local, and this year we moved them from local into ESSER 3, so we're gonna continue that one for the next year. Community services, that one just decreased overall. And debt service does increase because of those capital lease payments that we had. So our overall decrease in the budget is 7.97% overall. We have our public hearing scheduled for June 21st at 5:15 p.m. Maintenance and operations, the decrease overall on the local funds only is 9.15%. Debt service, the decrease is 2.37%, and that's mostly because of the refunding of our 2011 and 2012 bonds. So we refinanced those and we got a lower rate. And our total expenditures are decreased by 7.97%. So that will be on the paper no later than Saturday. So, correct. So that'll satisfy the 10 days, 10 to 30 days.
So now here's a curveball that I'm gonna throw out at you,
Okay.
okay?
Let me get my
And
catcher's
just,
mitt.
this is just my opinion. We had a meeting on our budget in closed session, and of course, we're talking about balancing the budget, and we talked about concerns, and then we're seeing decreases here, decreases there, which is good, and it helps our budget look good and get where we need to get. Because of the issues that we've all faced, that our employees face as far as the cost of living with increasing gas prices, fluctuating up and down, but mainly up. And I know we're in a time crunch now, and I know that you've been very, very, very busy with this. What is the feasibility of between now and the deadline to submit this for the paper, that we can look at how a 2% increase in pay from the midpoint for our staff
It's not
come
feasible.
about? It will not be feasible?
It is not
There's no way that we
feasible.
could get it done?
I'm not saying that there's no way we can get it done, but I understand that TASB will have some play in it because they're the ones that provide the pay file.
Okay,
That honestly took about 3 of us 2 days to update the pay salaries.
okay,
I would need to have the ad go out no later than tomorrow at noon. So I don't think that we'll be able to get a file back from TASB and upload it, rework the numbers, and get those numbers out to the newspaper. So that's the bottom line on what that part is. Can we do it? I mean, certainly we can look at adjusting in the middle of the year. I would have to look at where we are going to get, because if I'm not mistaken, 2.5 was possibly $2.5 million, and I don't have room for that in my budget.
Okay.
I would have to look at where I would need to.
Okay. And I understand, and I understand we're in a time crunch right now, and like you said, maybe something that we can do mid-year. And then the other idea, again, because it's a reality. I mean, when we look at our employees, I mean, they're facing many challenges. So I know that we continue to have ESSER 3 funds, and so perhaps if we can't do this as a 2.2, if we can't consider a 2% increase in pay from the midpoint across the board, maybe, we can figure out some type of incentive, like we did what was it called? A retention?
Yes.
Allotment or you know what I'm talking about as far as.
Yes, we do. We have a longevity
you
stipend
go,
that we
the
currently
longevity.
have, but Ms. Adevion, Mr. Perez, the Federal Programs Director, and I, we've looked over the balances, and there is room for that. So we do
Okay.
have something coming down the pipe on that one, a very
Okay.
sizable amount, because I get it.
Okay, so then let's do that. Then my recommendation is for you as a financial officer to look into that, and that we as a board come together and agree that our people deserve that. And we can't do it with a budget, but we can do it with our ESSER funds.
At the last workshop, you brought us a thing listed of turf for the field, for the baseball and softball field, a band trailer, lights at the old stadium, and where it was paid for. And then you went to an executive session, and I missed it, and what happened to all of that?
That was possibilities
cut
of
or
where
what?
that list was a list of possibilities of where they could be funded.
Okay.
So when we went into closed session, the board prioritized what they felt was what we could do at that time.
But, I mean, I just don't see it right, because I wasn't here, and I thought that it was a done deal that all those were gonna get paid by those particular ESSER funds or whatever, but I don't know, I'm just concerned about it, because everything got cut, or?
Some of those expenditures, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay, because I don't want to go, I'm not going to speak for you, but for Mr. Medrano's knowledge, since he wasn't here, some of those expenses were not going to be paid out of ESSER funds necessarily. They were going to be.
It had where it was gonna get paid from.
Correct, but when push came to shove at that time, and again, we met in executive session, we were having issues balancing the budget.
Oh, balancing the budget,
Balancing the
okay.
budget, so when we discussed that as a board, we came together and we said, what are we going, look at it, I mean, this is a topic of conversation, we're at priorities, what are our priorities? We're gonna do this, and we're gonna
No,
spend.
that's fine.
Yeah,
No, I
but
understand.
But yeah, it
But
was
what
unfortunate.
what was left on the spending? What did you all decide to fund or not fund?
We decided to fund none and
None.
prioritize
Okay, none.
balancing the budget.
That doesn't make sense, but, I mean, if it's for balancing the budget, I agree, but all of those got cut? I can't.
No,
I
not
can't-
all of them.
Not all of them.
Okay, then
Not
what
all.
was?
A good portion of the ones from
Okay,
the
then
fund balance did get cut off. Some
Can
of
you-
them will be because we're gonna be doing some studies, especially on the vehicles. We are gonna do a study
Mm-hmm.
on what it's gonna cost and what it's gonna take for us to lease some of those vehicles as opposed to purchasing them.
Correct.
And so
Can you provide a list to the board of what wasn't cut?
I did provide that on my weekly report on this past Friday.
Okay.
On what was not going to be funded and what was, and from what funds,
Okay.
exactly.
All right, I'm just asking because I didn't know what had gone on, so.
I understand, sir. If you want, I can send that again.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Perez, I was looking at this, actually, Mr. Ramiro Moreno brought it up, but looking back at this one, you all had expenditures in 2021, and
Which slide is that now?
it's the one with the list of expenditures.
Yes, ma'am.
You had, the expenditures were 128 million in 2021, And then for 2022, your projected expenditures are 118 million.
Correct.
I think that's very commendable that it shows that you all have been looking at our expenditures and trying to figure out where to cut or what's necessary and what's not. Am I correct in saying that?
We are almost forced to, because if we don't have the student population, the ADA, then we don't have the numbers for it. So yeah, it forced us to look at individually, line item by line item, where it is that we should be cutting. And so I took a really good look individually again at, okay, they are requesting this much. How much did they ask for last year? How much did they spend? Is it necessary? Is it going to impede any of the processes and learning of the students? And if it's not, then let's take a look at how we can lower that amount.
Right.
The only ones that did not get lowered at all were the campuses and instructionals. Those are non-negotiable. They need what they need.
Right, and that's part of why when we discussed that list of the wish list, where the campuses and departments had, that's why we had to make those important decisions as to what was gonna be a priority at this time and what we can look at perhaps in the future as
Yes.
well. If you go back to one of the first sheets that you showed us on the all funds, I see on there you have the bonds and leases, 7.87% of funds on bonds. Does that also include any money that y'all are making? Because my understanding is you have some of our bond money in the bank and they're accumulating interest that the district is getting. So does that include that money also?
That was one of the funds that I did have to look at, because we, in the past, had earned a lot more interest. But the answer to your question is yes, I do count the interest that we get on our bond construction in that account.
And also, Ms. Herbion, you weren't here earlier this year, but one of the questions that we brought up, and the community had a question on, that's why we brought it up, but it was the use of money that was being accumulated by using our credit cards. And the question back then was, what are those points being used for? Who's using them? What are y'all doing with that? And you all were gonna get back to us on that. So is that included on here too?
That is always included as part of, we do not get points, we get a rebate. And so that amount is based off of what we spend on American Express, which is why you see those large purchases, because we do pay some of our bills with American Express. And so the rebates that we get off of that are worked into our budget. So they don't go into one specific item, it is for the overall revenue projections. Correct.
But it goes into the general fund,
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir.
Now, what I would like to also say is that we are going to have a look at our fund balance when we're trying to look at all these safety measures and modifications to our facilities. So we also thought of, well, we need to earmark that money and prioritize it for student safety. That was something else we discussed. I do know that when we were looking at raises, we were looking at the sustainability. I also know that for the past 5 years, San Benito CISD has given raises to employees. And that's almost unheard of when you think of, other districts. So I commend the board for that. But this year, we looked at our funding sources. We looked at where we are with the ADA, with the decreasing enrollment over these last 5 years as well. And we started working with our ESSER funds to increase that longevity stipend so that it would be something substantial, not like it was in the past. And we wanted to make it an even equitable amount for every employee.
Correct.
So that's what we're doing with that when we were tasked with balancing the budget.
Any other questions? So I did upload, and I think Ms. Peggy left y'all a copy of last year's budget, just so you know what to expect for the next, the adoption meeting,
Sure, it'll be on the 27th, correct?
21st,
21st, sorry.
Correct.
21st, you're right.
unless you have a different date in
No,
mind.
21st is correct.
That'll
You're
be
right.
the public, I'm sorry. The
It's
public
a
hearing,
hearing and then the regular,
and then the adoption.
there you go.
Yes. All If no other questions?
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Ya no le muela, sir.
Well, you did say you might be able to work it in some.
I don't remember saying might. Did I nod?
So,
Thank you.
okay, oh, I forget, I'm the one that has to adjourn, you're waiting on me, sir. All righty, so if are there any committee concerns? All right, they've already, if there are no committee concerns, we will adjourn at 9:29.